What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to let off some steam about Gamescom 2023. So, I assume when people make reactions, they maybe go hard on the Game Awards or Summer Game Fest, you could probably lean into, well, what were you expecting? What were your expectations, right? Because if you had ridiculous expectations, then you did it to yourself. And I absolutely agree with that. In fact, I try to tell people that ahead of the show. I think there are some actual things you can look at this show to say, yeah, that was bad. The consistency, what wasn't shown, I think all three of those areas were a huge problem. So let me explain before you get too mad at me for criticizing the show. By the way, I'm a huge Jeff Keighley fan. I'm not going to blame the man. He's going to kill it for the Game Awards 10-year anniversary, GTA 6 all the way. But this show, in my opinion, was pretty darn bad. Some things that kind of come to mind. The Rebel Moon thing. Now, Rebel Moon doesn't look bad, but we need to, I think, move away from this. Like, just in general, you don't need Zach to be there. You actually didn't need several of the people that were there to be there. But, to show such a long trailer for Rebel Moon, it's not a game. It's literally called Gamescom. And you could say, well, Alex, they have a tie-in game. Well, number one, movie tie-in games normally are not good. Number two, people did a little bit of digging. That studio that he called out, that's a mobile team. So the game he's gloating about, and he doesn't even know what kind of game it is other than it's probably going to be cooperative, that it's probably going to be on this thing right here, your phone. I'm generally anti, by the way, in case you didn't know, mobile games. So that was a gigantic waste of time. Okay, just a huge waste of time. Another waste of time, the cosplay kind of convention thing they had on stage. I don't really know why you needed to do that. The green energy thing, I think, continues to just not be something that you need to shout out right there. And I'll tell you why. This is not going to get political. It's as easy as this. You're throwing around this idea of green energy. The lady, from what I heard, basically told us that either we already are complaining to developers about green energy and we should do it more, or she said that because we already voice our opinions to developers so loudly, we should also voice our opinions to developers and talk about, are they using energy correctly? Either way kind of sounds odd to say out loud. And final, again, to not get too political on this issue, they flew so many people there needlessly. Phil Spencer flew there, yes, I assume for other reasons than to accept an award, but he accepted an award and then he's there. You flew Todd Howard there for what, like a 5-minute speech? You flew Ed Boon there for what, a 2-minute thing? You flew Sam Lake there for like a 2-minute thing? So you're talking about energy and climate and the world, and yet Jeff continuously said throughout the entire show that these guys flew here just for this. And it's like, okay, well, that's a lot of planes, that's a lot of fuel, that's a lot of things going on with the world. So my point being, did you need to say that on the show? Was this really the right time? Because it just kind of comes off as hypocritical. I'm all for the world being safer. I have a daughter. I want her to live like a long time on this planet, even when I'm gone. But is that the time when you are gloating about using a lot of planes? So that's something that kind of annoyed me. But beyond that, the consistency just was not there. Here's the thing I can actually state, right? Because you look at all the games and you say, okay, well, Alex, there's maybe a game for every kind of person, right? There was a good amount of diversity. Maybe you like some JRPGs, maybe you like some shooters, maybe you like, whatever, horror game in Alan Wake or a fighter in MK1. And there were some good things. This show was not like complete trash. They didn't show one good thing. Little Nightmares 3. I actually am kind of stunned they even did that. Crimson Desert looks absolutely insane. The Alan Wake trailer looked awesome. The MK1 trailer looked absolutely incredible. They had some really, really big hits, but the consistency was a problem. And the biggest thing is a lot of the things that they showed, they didn't even kind of double down with like release dates. So you show Little Nightmares and you say 2024. A lot of things were 2024. Black Myth Wukong, which also looked really good, 2024. So actually, I don't even think they showed a year. We just know it's coming out in 2024 because they've already said that. So what was Jeff's criteria, right? Jeff's criteria to get onto the show was games that are releasing soon. Updates on games in the fall, maybe a couple of new announcements, or even games coming out in the next year. Well, you don't give release dates for games in the next year. There was maybe one or two, I guess Tekken, right? Tekken was, but that was leaked ahead of time. That's not necessarily Jeff Keighley's fault, but that's something I could actually state where it's like, yeah, I might not care about Modern Warfare 3, and I almost fell asleep during that mission, but that's fine. I know other people do care, and that's honestly totally cool. We have different tastes. But the general theme of the show was giving updates, and then you show some games that are maybe early next year and you don't give dates for them. So, like, again, what was the point? You focused too hard on the celebrity stuff. What was the point there? There was a lot of things that just were not necessary. And then let's go into the third and final piece of it, what wasn't shown. Now, again, these are subjective. It's where you put your expectations. But I would like to throw out there, my expectations were not all that crazy, okay? I'm not here asking for GTA. I'm not here asking for BioShock or Mass Effect or games that are coming out in 2, 3, 4 years, okay? I asked for Stellar Blade, a game that we have no idea where it is. Now, is that Jeff Keighley's fault? No, not necessarily. That's more on the game. All of these situations are actually on the game more than the people who put together the show. But still, when you talk about games coming out in the next year, you have some of the blame as well. Stellar Blade, where in God's name is it? Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I've talked so much about that game. There was a news story earlier today. It switched publishers and developers, so hopefully everything's okay there. Transformers Reactivate. You announced that back in the Game Awards of last year. The beta was supposed to come out this year. We're almost at the end of this year. There's nothing. Killer Clowns was supposed to release this year. Where is it, right? So I'm not asking for games that are 2, 3 years out. My big, bold prediction was Dragon Age, right? Because I think Dragon Age comes out next fall, and I think that kind of made sense to show it. But it quickly the show showed me that it wouldn't have fit, right? Spider-Man 2 would not have fit this show. Something like a Dragon Age would not have fit this show. It would have actually almost been too big. Even though, I guess to be fair, Mortal Kombat, Alan Wake, those are huge games. Those were huge trailers. There was some big stuff. But overall, the size and scope of a lot of the games announced or shown, we're talking like a tier lower than these big, huge AAA games. Now, some of those games tend to be better than AAA games, but all things considered, the Little Nightmares of the world, actually, that was, I think, one of the better things, maybe top 2 or 3 things they showed at the show, and that's a very, in all things considered, that's a small game. It's not going to rival Assassin's Creed in sales. It's not going to rival Mortal Kombat 1, right? So does some of that fall on me? Sure it falls on me. But people in my chat, when I was live streaming, did put it kind of well. When you think about it, there's a lot of games that come out, by November, December. We've talked about this, right? There are games coming out January, February, March, but so much of that is a mystery. And I've talked about that. I talked about that earlier today. I talked about that yesterday. There's so many games that are kind of a mystery of when they release. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Does that come out January, February? Hellblade 2. When's that come out? Wolf Among Us. That was delayed to 2024. When's that come out? Again, does Jeff Keighley shoulder all the blame of all of these games? No. But when you have a show, and then you really, in terms of 2024 games, you didn't show all that much. A lot of it was focused on the fall, but you said the whole year, you said over the next year. So where's the games, what games are coming out between January and, say, March of next year? Suicide Squad, which wasn't there. Tekken, which was there. So you're starting to build a little, but it didn't do it for me. And then on top of it, some of these games were kind of a joke. Some of the later games were kind of a joke. There was that game towards the end that I believe I kind of was talking over it, so I don't know for sure. I feel like they were patting themselves on the back for loot boxes. Their game is based off of loot boxes and the game being around forever. They said they want to play the game forever, and they were congratulating themselves. So I don't love to see loot boxes getting a huge pat on the back from the developers. Just some of the stuff that Jeff allowed to, I guess, take place, some of the interviews or whatever. Obviously, the beginning part, man, that was kind of weird. That needs to stop. Okay, the Bill Clinton thing was kind of funny. No. Jeff's going to get hurt one of these days if security keeps falling asleep on him. So that was a little awkward kind of thing in the beginning. Him and Zack Snyder had absolutely no chemistry together. Jeff is a really good interviewer, and he's good at keeping things rolling. Zack kind of seemed like he had no idea why he was even there. So there were just some really odd parts to this show. It wasn't very good. Gamescoms are normally much better than this, and the Game Awards are actually not as good as the one we just got. I feel like they swapped, long story short. Game Awards normally are not as good. This past one was great. Gamescom, last year's Gamescom was excellent. I really liked last year's Gamescom. This year, it's definitely below average. Maybe it's not complete garbage, but it's totally below average, and that's a pretty big twist from last year. It wasn't the same. Game Awards, he always does well, and I'm very confident that he'll be fine when it comes to his 10th Game Award. So there you go. There's my thoughts. I'll be covering some specific games, maybe Killer Clowns, which obviously, again, wasn't there. But if you want me to talk about anything that we did see at the show, leave it in the comments. I got to watch that Alan Wake trailer a few times before I'm ready to kind of delve into that. But let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.